Okay, so here's minus 3 and minus 3 for t. U is 2 and a half. Minus half, so it's actually supposed to be there, sorry. And it's U. And V is positive 1 and 5. So let's just take this one out. Excuse me. Thank you. Okay, so there's my dots, but they want me to do the triangle, so I'm going to connect my dots with straight lines. My next question, which we've not done this year, but it's not a difficult thing to do, and I am going to work through it because it does midpoint and perpendicular, okay? Perpendicular bisector. So it says determine the gradient of the perpendicular bisector. That means bisector, bi means two, sect means cut, so I'm cutting the line in two. Perpendicular meaning perpendicular, okay? So I'm looking for the line TV, and I need to know where the middle is, because that would mean it's cut into two, doesn't it? Yes, Bongo? Okay, so again, bisector cutting into two equal parts. What do we know that does that? So if I had a line and I wanted to cut it in half, where would I cut? What do we call it? The mid what? The midpoint. The midpoint would cut my line in half. So my first thing that I need to do is find my my midpoint of TV. So please find the midpoint of TV. Everyone, I'm going to have to tell you to do everything today. I will, I don't mind. If that's how tired you are, you need to be prompted. I'm very happy to do it. Pardon? Of TV. Midpoint of TV, please. Okay, you should have it. Okay, so here's your calculation. My midpoint is adding the x's, dividing by 2, adding the y's, dividing by 2, giving me minus 1 and 1. And I've also indicated it on my graph. And we can see visually that kind of looks like the middle, and it should actually, between T and V. Now the question says perpendicular bisector. So we know where this line will cut. It will cut at the midpoint. But now perpendicular means that it's going to cut through it at 90 degrees. Okay? Now I'm not going to draw it, but I need to know the gradient of a line perpendicular to TV. How do I find the gradient of a line perpendicular to TV? Let me read, John. Fantastic, which means my first step is to actually calculate the gradient of TV. So my gradient So if they are perpendicular, then m of TV times the m of this bisector, so I'm just going to call it bisector, will equal -1. So I need the gradient of TV. So please calculate the gradient of TV. So that's the gradient of BV. I want the gradient of the bisector. Please find the gradient of the bisector. Pongo? No, because you need to do it first. A bisector is something that cuts it in half. So a perpendicular bisector would be a bisector that cuts it in half at 90 degrees. So it would be perpendicular to this line. So I would have, if I do it in pencil, a perpendicular bisector would be, just want to get the correct gradient, would look like this. So it's cutting it in half, so that is equal to that, okay? But it's also cutting at 90 degrees. So if I wanted the gradient of this line, I know that it's at 90 degrees to this line. So this gradient TV times that gradient of the bisector must equal -1. Because that is what I know about perpendicular lines. If they are perpendicular, multiplying will always be -1. So that's what I use. So the gradient of TV times the gradient of the bisector must equal -1. I calculate the gradient of TV as 2, and I substitute it into that equation. TV is now 2. So 2 times the bisector's gradient must equal -1. Therefore, taking that 2 over, the bisector must equal to -1/2. Now I'm going to ask you to please find the equation of that perpendicular bisector. So it's also a straight line, so what is my starting point for finding any equation of a straight line? Do I already have the gradient? Yes, I just calculated it. What do I still need in order to find that C value? I need a coordinate. Do I not have a coordinate? Where it went through my midpoint. Sorry, not x, it's supposed to be 1. -1. So negative times negative is positive. When I take it over, it becomes negative. So C would equal to a +1/2. Therefore, that perpendicular bisector, or the line that I drew in pencil's formula, is -1/2x plus a half. So we haven't done the terminology of perpendicular bisector, and you don't need it for the test. But we broke it up into things we do know, midpoint and perpendicular lines. -1, yeah. Yes, Rebecca. But by greater, you talk about here. Yeah. So a negative times a negative, positive, right? So when I take it over, it becomes a negative. Then my last question asks me what kind of triangle this is. Okay. Now, when we classify triangles as scalene, equilateral, or isosceles, what are we classifying it based on?
The
Angles or? So if I tell you an isosceles has how many sides equal? And a scalene? And an equilateral? Pardon? All of them. So if I had to ask you to find which kind of triangle this is, what would we need to know? The side lengths, right? How do we find side lengths when I have 2 points and I need to know how long something is between those 2 points? The distance. So please calculate all 3 distances for me. TV, UV, and TU. All 3 distances, please. Remember, I just need to see the substitution and the answer. Bless you. So TV. UV. Remember to protect your negatives. And UT. Yes, Rebecca. Yes, you may. Erin. You can leave it in third form or change it to decimals. Just be careful of rounding. Yes, Akram. Oh, okay. So just calculating the distance of the 3 triangles, so that is what it should look like. Distance of TV, the 2 x's squared plus the 2 y's squared, and square rooting that answer. Distance of UV, the distance between the x's squared plus the y's squared, protecting the negative. And then UT, the distance of the x's squared plus the y's squared, protecting the negative. Please double bracket when you put it into your equation, else only your half will be squared, not the answer. So you should be getting 4 square root 5, 5 square root 5 over 2, and 5 square root 5 over 2. So based on that information, what kind of triangle do I have? An isosceles triangle, since 2 sides of the triangle are equal in length. Okay, I have another one for you. Still 1 or 2 writing.
What's it say? D, D-U-B, D, the last one?
D-U-T. Okay, the next ones we're only going to do the first 6. What are you busy with? Done? Okay. What are you busy with? Okay. I don't want, oh, it's the first 6. So there is my information given to me on a Cartesian plane. Okay. Can you all see that? Okay, I do not want number 7. We're also going to do it together because of time. So the first thing, determine the gradients of the diagonals AC and BD. So please just find the gradients of AC and BD for me very quickly. Gradients AC and BD. So remember, I will send some worksheets we go through where I will have extras of this kind of thing, but it's really not difficult. Okay, should be done. Told you very quickly, AC and DBD. So I'm just writing it. By the time I'm finished writing it, you should be done. Okay, so gradient of AC should be positive 1. Gradient of BD should be negative 1. So I just need you to practice calculating gradients, guys. It shouldn't take so long. Yes, that's fine. So there you go. AC, BD, 1 and negative 1. My next question asks if these two lines are going to be perpendicular or not. What do I need to show to prove that they are perpendicular? There we go. Show that when I multiply the gradients, my answer is negative 1. So if MAC times MBD equals negative 1, then MAC is perpendicular to BD. So let's actually go and calculate. What was my gradient of AC? What is my gradient of BD? What is 1 times -1? Therefore, yes, M of AC is perpendicular to M of BD. Kind of seems like a silly question when you look at it. But as long as those gradients multiply together equals -1, they have to be perpendicular. This is all... No, it's not. Okay, next question. Determine if the origin lies on the line BD. And then they give you a tip, is it collinear with the line BD? So what do we do when things are collinear? What do we need to know? Pardon? Not equal? They lie on the same straight line. How do I know if they lie on the same straight line? They all have the same gradient. So I need to know the gradient of BO, the gradient of DO, and the gradient of BD. We already have the gradient of BD, don't we? We just calculated it as -1. So we just need OB and DO. So doing those gradients, -3 and 3, the origin has an x and y of 0. B's coordinates are -3 and 3. So +3 and -3. That gives me 3 over -3, which is -1. So far, so good. MDO. D is 4 and -4. My origin is still 0. We already calculated BD. So since all the gradients are the same, that is collinear. So we wanted to prove that. We have now. Therefore, the origin is on the line, because that was the question. The origin is on the line. Determine the midpoint of AC. Please determine the midpoint of AC. Very quickly, should not take more than 10 seconds. Or take longer to write than calculate. AC. I'm busy with this one though.
No,
I'm still writing on it.
okay, when you're done,
Gradient of AC should be -5 plus 2 divided by 2. Mr. Brits?
Did you SMS her?
No,
Okay, I don't know. There's nothing in my bag.
definitely not. Okay, thank you,
I told
Mr.
her
Brits.
already.
Okay, thank you. And then the y's would be 5 plus -2 dividing by 2. So your midpoint should be -3 over 2 and 3 over 2. So you're calculating your midpoint of AC. This is what it would look like. Literally just add your x values and divide by 2. Add your y values and divide by 2. So -5 plus 2 is -3. Dividing by 2 is -3 over 2. I left it in improper fraction. And 5 minus 2 divided by 2 is 3 over 2. Please calculate your midpoint of BD. Sorry, I'm doing capital letters because little letter is gradient. So BD should be just as quick. Anyone have an answer for me yet? Ooh, yes, Katia. Fantastic. Half and negative a half. Next question I want you to do, please, is calculate the distance of AB and the distance of AD. This distance AB and AD, please. AB and AD distance. Yes. Yes, yes you can. AB and AD distance. Just need to see the substitution. Always protecting your negatives. Leave it in third form for me, no decimals. $13 more seconds. Okay, so the following should have occurred. Minusing your x's, protecting the negative and squaring, plus minusing the y's and squaring. So AB should be square root 29. I told you to leave it in third form. And distance AD, x's squared, y's squared, giving me a square root of 85. Any questions, any problems? Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add to this page or to the question. Erin? Okay, so I'm introducing a new point F. Okay, I'm introducing a new point F where B is the midpoint between F and D. So find the coordinate of F and B would be the midpoint of that line. How would I calculate the coordinates of F? Since I'm talking about midpoint, I'm going to have to do something with midpoint. So start there. So the midpoint of FD equals, how do I calculate midpoint? So you should be able to do everything from what I've just written. That your midpoint of FD would be your x of F plus your x of D dividing by 2. And your y of F and your plusing your y of D and dividing by 2. And once we have simplified those, it would be the midpoint of, which is the coordinate B, so xB and yB. So just substitute the information you have into this and solve separately. Application of midpoint. Today or tomorrow, I'm not sure. Application of midpoint. Any questions? So we have practiced finding the midpoint, doing the application of midpoint, the reverse process. We have practiced distance. We have practiced perpendicular lines. We have practiced finding coordinates. We have practiced, we haven't really practiced parallel lines. Parallel lines are easy though. We did have one yesterday. Yes, Rebecca?
Why is it y minus 4?
A positive and a negative make. Okay. Now as soon as you don't understand, you need to ask. Because you're always going to focus on the thing you don't understand. So clarify as much as you can. So those are the things that we need grade 10 for, the test coming up. I will prepare a practice sheet for you for all analytical and trig. And I'll send it to you towards the end of the holiday week, so that week after the holiday you can practice it. Mrs. Mann has put up a PowerPoint onto the Teams, and there's a lot of stuff in there that we aren't going to need, but we will need it eventually. So what we normally do would we do this? Where they were perpendicular. Okay? So we would find this distance, we would find that they are equal, and since my properties of a kite are two adjacent sides are equal, and the diagonals cross 90 degrees, we would use that to say that this is a kite. So the problem is that man put out is a lot of those kinds of questions, but we aren't asking you to prove quadrilaterals. So just practice the distance, the gradients, the midpoints, the perpendicular, because I know a lot of you don't like perpendicular stuff. So yes, it's a bit difficult, some of them. Don't focus on proving the quad. Focus on the stuff that we need when you practice. But I will also send you one during that holiday period. Then for trig, because your outline just says analytical and trig, analytical we know is distance formula, midpoint, both ways of midpoint, gradients, so collinear, perpendicular, and parallel, and using that to find points. Okay? For trigonometry, we have the following. Your basics of your graphs, so finding the amplitude, the minimum and maximum values and your range, and drawing, and your period, and drawing the basic trig graph. Then it will be trig equations. There will only be one of them. Reduction formula. So that is all your reduction formulas plus negative angles plus angles bigger than 360. That all forms part of reduction. And solving your triangles. And then on the Cartesian plane. So trig on the Cartesian plane. So when I say something like this, so then I will ask you what is the length of the hypotenuse, what is sine of theta, what is sine squared theta plus cos squared theta, the stuff on the plane. Okay? So there cannot be more than one question per thing. Okay? So if you can just practice, then you will be fine. We don't have enough marks to trick you. So if you study, but the important part is you have to study, there's no way that I can trick you in geometry. Algebra is a different story because we all sucked at algebra in the beginning of the year. Our brains were still underdeveloped. There was a lot of work thrown at us. So you're going to have to go back to that algebra. So I promise you that's going to trip you up, not the geometry. And it's a nice paper, the functions you'll be fine, but the algebra, because we did it so long ago, and we haven't revised it, and we only have one lesson to do some extra practice, that's going to be your thing that's going to get you marks out. So go to your algebra.
Ma'am, it's not going to be in paper 1.
Yes.
Ma'am, but what is all algebra like? Ma'am, can't you do it in this lesson we see one?
Yes, I will. That one lesson will go through, but I mean, one lesson's not enough. You're going to have to work that week before the time on your algebra so that when we are here in class, you can ask those last questions. Because I'm talking about factorizing, common bracket, common factor, dots, trinomials, grouping. We all hated grouping. Talking about fractions, simplifying fractions using factorizing. Talking about equations, quadratic equations, exponential equations. So you guys have to work on that algebra. So you do not have 2 weeks of holiday, you only have one. Do you understand me? When it comes to maths, 1 week holiday. I cannot stress that enough. Okay, otherwise have a fantastic holiday. Do not go to parties and get COVID. Please don't be that silly. Okay, good afternoon, grade 10. Use the group as always. But 1 week of holiday, please. You need it. We all need it. Bye. Otherwise, I want to give you that tax question that I want you to do. You can use your notes from yesterday. On tax questions, I'm going to give you an example, you're going to work through it. I'm going to give you about 5 to 10 minutes, and then I'll go through it with you. But I need you to try yourself first. Okay? I'm just finding it quickly. calculate, please. So that's exactly what you need to do, times by 12. So we're deducting annual UIF and annual pension. So his UIF is how much of his salary? It won't be in there, because UIF is always 1%. So it will be 1% times his annual salary. Calculate that for me on your calculator, please. Okay? So not pensions, medical aid, sorry. That's actually, that question is old, and yeah, we'll just go with it. 5,400. Okay. Then his medical aid, medical aid for a whole year, it is 2,500 per month. Fantastic. So 2,500 times 12. Calculate for me, please. So 30,000. Okay. Now we have to go 540,000 minus 5,400 minus 30,000. Please give me the total. now take that to my tax table. So this is going to start following our steps now. Go to the bracket. Which bracket does it fall with? Under 504,600. Why would you say that bracket? But that's still 500,000 in it. Okay, so what does this say? So calculate your tax using that information, like we did yesterday. Write this first, and then do 5.3 like we did yesterday. The 504,600 is the amount we're going to take to the tax table. So we first use it, 504,000, to find which one. So you told me that one. Now we use this information to actually calculate the tax. So we those were our steps yesterday. So write it down for me. Write this down. There'll be 100,000 and 263 plus 36% bracket. Your amount minus that amount. Answer? he has no medical aid rebate. So this is his age rebate. Now he wants his medical rebate. Okay, so for him and one other person, how much is it?
Paying one other person. One is 21,700.
No, that's his age rebate. We're looking at medical aid now.
Oh, yeah, it's 620.
620. Okay? So that's for two people, him and one other person. How many people are in his family?
There are, I don't remember.
Read the question again.
Contributed to medical aid rebate, which must be calculated 4 people to go together on the medical aid scheme, including yourself.
So he's got 620s for him and one other person. How many other people are there?
4.
So it's 4 in total. So how many more?
4. So 620 plus 4
But 4 people are how many there are in total. So if, for instance, you are Mr. Parker, can you come aside? Never mind, don't worry. So you are Mr. Parker. I'm part of your family. 2 more people part of the family. We are 4 in total. For the first 2 people is 690 rand, 620 rand. Okay? Every other person after that is 209 rand. So how many 209s must I add?
4.
How many people don't have medical aid yet?
4.
There's 4 people in total.
4 people.
First 2 of the 4 are already covered. Cost 620 rand. How many more people are not covered? 2. So each one of them must pay 209 rand. So how many 209 must I add? 2. So what is this total? Okay, but now, is that annual or is that monthly? Read your information again. Table as well. It actually doesn't say. Normally it should say. Okay, so this would be monthly. You should have said it's monthly. So if it's monthly, how do I get the annual medical rebate?
You say times 4.
Why times 4? So this is for the month, but I want the annual. So I'm going to go from month to annual.
Then you say times
There we go. So what is the total rebate for medical?
12,460.
Okay, that's his total medical. And our last question says, determine his net tax payable to start after all rebates are taken into account. So now we're going to take my net tax, is my gross tax from the table, minus all the discounts. So the age rebate and the medical aid rebate. So what was the tax amount that we calculated? The gross tax?
Which is 109,500.
What is the age rebate? or in a year?
Your 12 months.
There are 12 months in a year. So whatever I'm going to do is going to include the number 12, not the number 13. If I wanted days, then I would include 13. But I'm not talking about days. Okay? So I'm going to do something with the number 12. So far, I have 204,295 for the whole year. Everything adds up. Add up to 104,295. Now, if I just want to take one little portion from the whole year, is that going to be smaller or bigger than that number? It's going to be smaller. How do I get smaller? Times or divide? I divide. So whenever I'm talking about 1 month, I want one portion of the whole month. And I'm always going to divide. And because I'm going from 1 year to 1 month, 12 days, it's a month, I divide by 12. So I would go 104,295 divide by 12. And I wrote this every day this week because you're really struggling with it. Whenever I ask for something about 1 month, I must always divide by 12. So for 1 month, he has to pay 8,691 rand and 25 cents. 1 month. So January he pays it, February he pays it, March he pays it, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and December. He must pay this amount every single month. And only at the end of December will it all add up to the 104,295. So this is my annual amount for all 12 months. For 1 month, we divide by 12 to get the amount for 1 month. If I now went and said, how much per day? If this is for 1 whole month, and I want 1 day, a small portion is a times versus divide. Let's divide. And I have 1 month, but now I'm going to days, so what am I dividing by? So how many days in most months? 50. So now I divide by 50. Okay, there's your 50. So I think we need to go over that quickly. So if I have a whole 1 year, and I want to get to 1 month, which is a portion, I'm going to take my year and divide by 12. Okay, to get to the month. Okay? If I have 1 year, and I want to go directly to 1 week, I'm going to take my year. How many weeks in a year? How many weeks in 1 year? 52. So then I would divide by 52 to get to 1 week. So I started off with a year. To get to 1 week, I divide by 52. If I have 1 year, and I want to go directly and translate it to 1 day, how many days in a normal year?
365.
There you go. So it all depends on what I want to convert to. If I want to convert to the month, I divide by 12. If I want to convert to the week, I divide by 52. If I want to convert to the day, I divide by 365. And I can go the opposite. Days times 365. 1 week times 52. Or 1 month times 12 gives me the year. Now I can also do this. I can say 1 week I mean, 1 month. Okay? 1 month. Now I'm going to go directly to weeks, which is a portion of 1 month. How many weeks in most months?
4.
There we go. So I'll divide by 4. Now if I want to go from 1 month straight to days, what am I going to divide by? Little portion. Not 1 year, sorry, 1 month. So how many days in 1 month? In most months?
Yeah, 30 days.
30 days. So it all depends on what I'm going from to what I'm going to. So year to month is always 12. Year to week is always divided by 52. Year to day divided by 365. Always. Okay? Now I'm going from month to week, dividing by 4. Month to day, dividing by 50 for most months. Okay? Now I can also go from 1 week to 1 day. What am I, or weeks to days, what am I going to do?
You're going to say, you're going to divide by 50, 35. Week to day. From week to day, divide by 1.
That's what I'm asking. How many days in a week?
Yeah, 5 days. Or 7 days.
There we go, 7 days. So obviously I'm talking about the total for the week and finding the total per day. I would divide by 7. The total for the month, dividing by 50 gives you the total per day. Okay, so this is just showing you how you do it in finance. So I would write this down for finance. So those things for finance, okay, total, convert to, smaller unit. So remember my units work as the following. Year, month, week, day. So if I have a bigger unit and I want to go to a smaller unit, so I have year and I want to go to anything smaller, I will always divide. If I want to go year to month, it's directly 12. Year to week, 52. Year to day, 365. Okay. Month to week, 4. Month to day, 50. Week to day, 7. Okay? So that's if I have a bigger unit and I'm going to a smaller unit. If I do the reverse, I have the day and I want to get to week, I times by 7. If I have the day and I want to get to month, I times by 50. If I have the day and I want to get to year, then I multiply by 365. So if I want to go from small unit or a total for a small unit to a total for a bigger unit, I need to multiply. So this you seem to be the dividing that you are struggling with. So you need to please write this down right now. So this portion here. And you can write that over here as well. And then just the last thing that I will also write. Can I erase this side?
What's the last number?
365. Okay. So you want to take a picture of this so this just shows everything. So going from 1 year to 1 month, dividing by 12. From 1 year to 1 week, dividing by 52. From 1 year to 1 day, 365. And the reverse. From the day, which is the smaller unit, to the week, it's times 7. To the month, it's times 30. And to the year, it's times 365. And then we did the week and the day as well, the week and month as well. So what you wrote here, I've done the division, so that's what is this part, but then I'm also showing if I work backwards. So you can take a picture of that. You want me to send a picture to you? Master, send a picture. Okay, if you want to write it, you still have about 2 minutes.